Good day and welcome to the laboratory. In the 18th century, a laboratory is a place on the edge of the encampment where the Army makes musket cartridges, ammunition for their firearms. Now this is a work detail. Every soldier doesn't necessarily make his own cartridges. Today we will show you new recruits how to make a cartridge so that you can begin being useful to the Army. Some officers prefer to use experienced soldiers for this detail, thinking that it's important to have them well made. On the other hand, we are dealing with dangerous amounts of gunpowder here, and some officers prefer to use new soldiers like yourselves, so we don't waste an experienced soldier should there be an unfortunate accident. You therefore have been sent to the laboratory today because your sergeant has determined that as a new soldier you were stupid, useless, and expendable. But before we begin the lesson, let's pause for a brief word from our sponsor, the fine folks at Dragonfly Traders. Friends, when you need to go out in public during an epidemic, you need to disguise yourself with a mask, lest the plague maiden follow you home. But don't just settle for any mask. You need a 17th century plague mask from Dragonfly Traders. 2 layers of cotton cloth, washable, plus for your added protection, an inner paper layer, replacements available wherever coffee supplies are sold. A comfortable strap tied behind your head. Unlike many masks which press against the nose and mouth, making it difficult to talk and breathe, the plague mask allows you to breathe and speak normally. And if you subscribe to the more modern theory of disease, namely that is spread by invisible things in the air, such as foul odors, Latin mal area, meaning bad air, know that the plague mask has plenty of room in the beak for a sachet of lavender or other fragrant herb to ward off this malaria. Doctor tested and approved, used by many doctors to protect themselves during the 1665 London plague. Don't just wear a mask, wear a genuine plague mask from Dragonfly Traders. All right, we're back and ready to start making the musket cartridge, so come close to the table here. What we're going to do is follow the Pickering method. Now, Pickering was a colonel of Massachusetts militia who in 1775 wrote an army manual to instruct the new officers in this new army what their duties were and how to go about them. And one of the things that he wrote about in some detail was how to make a musket cartridge. Now, the first thing you'll need is a piece of paper, and we have one cut here to his dimensions as described in his manual. We have 2 inches here, a right angle 5 inches across, another right angle up 6 inches, and then you connect these 2 points with a diagonal line. So that was his prescription for making a musket cartridge paper. Now, what kind of paper would we use? Well, brown wrapping paper was the most commonly used, but we know that church hymnals were also used, and we also know in one case that they were using scrap paper, and I've got a piece of it here. I have this in a protective sleeve because this document is dated 1759. And as you can see, if you take the Pickering cartridge paper and place it over it, it is exactly the shape, exactly this angle here. You take this piece here and rip it off and you would have a Pickering cartridge paper. So there's no doubt in my mind that the top half of this page was originally used for a cartridge paper. The bottom half, for whatever reason, was not used. And was stored away, and it's come down to us after all these years. Now, I'm not going to use an actual 18th century document, of course, but I do have a copy of it here, which we will use today. I'm going to place this face down on the table here, and now we're going to take a forming stick. A forming stick is a dowel or smooth stick from a tree, and you will place this on the edge between the 2 right angles and draw it back about 1.5 inches from this 6-inch dimension. Now you'll take this paper and roll the paper up around the stick like that, keeping it nice and tight. When you pick it up, then you will pinch the paper in on top of this stick and twist it around about 1 full turn to form a little fishtail like this. Now this is the end where the musket ball is going to go. To keep the musket ball from pushing out the end, we're going to take a string and tie around the end of this. I'm using some hemp twine today, which is commonly found in the 18th century, but any string would do. We're going to tie a knot here. Now we will take our knife and cut off the extra ends of the string here so they don't get in the way of things later on. Like that. Very good, and now we're going to slip the stick out of the paper and set that aside. We're finished with the stick. Now we're going to take a musket ball. This is the size musket ball that we would use for these military muskets, about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. we'll drop that down into the paper. Now we have to measure out our gunpowder. So we're going to take our powder horn here, and we're going to take a hollowed out deer antler that's been hollowed out to contain a 125 grain charge. And we're going to fill this with gunpowder. Now this is not a unit of a count, rather, it's a unit of weight. 125 grain of well-dried wheat is the same weight as the gunpowder used to fill this up. All right, now that we've got it full, we're going to put the stopper back into this so we don't spill any of this expensive and rather dangerous gunpowder. Now we're going to take our tube, we're going to pour the gunpowder on top of the ball, thusly. And now we're going to pinch this in on top of the gunpowder several times to loosen it a bit, take the stiffness out of it, and then being careful not to tear the paper, we're going to twist that around a few times to seal the end, and this is your finished cartridge. The cartridge then is placed in a cartridge box, a block of wood with some holes drilled into it. You place one of these cartridges in each of the holes, and then you cover this up with leather to keep the neighbor's sparks on the battlefield from setting it off while you're wearing it. Now you can try making one of these at home. If you don't have all the necessary ingredients, you can probably find some substitutes. Instead of a musket ball like this, any marble will do. Try to get it as close to 3/4 inch in diameter as you can, but if you have a smaller marble, that would work. For the gunpowder, you can use sand or salt, or if you have access to some granulated charcoal, which is commonly found in like aquarium filters, for example, that makes an excellent substitute. Gunpowder is mostly ground up charcoal by volume, and so it looks very realistic indeed. Now you probably don't have a gunpowder measure like this. That's quite all right. 125 grain charge is approximately equal to 1.5 teaspoons. So I hope you have fun making your cartridge. And this concludes our demonstration for today. Today's demonstration has been brought to you by Dragonfly Traders, crafters of the finest trade goods for the 18th century, including games and toys, clothing, household articles, accoutrements, and small tools. Dragonfly Traders supplying your 18th century needs for over 20 years, give or take a couple of centuries.